Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8 as well as Season 9, because this includes the ending of Season 8 that, you've guessed it, leads into Season 9. So yeah, another season of The Flash is done and dusted, with there of course being that brief, month or so earlier in the year where we weren't too sure if Season 8 was going to be the final season of the show or not, but of course that sort of unclarity or just not too sure what's going on sort of stage didn't last too long, as there was the confirmation of a ninth season, which wasn't labeled the final season as of yet at the time, despite a show like Riverdale, for example, being renewed for another season at the exact same time, but them labeling that as their final season as well. So it will be interesting to see whether this, ninth season on The Flash will be the final season or not. I personally think it will, and I'm going to be going into it thinking that it will be the final season, but you never know. Maybe they really want to get to that 10th season mark, which would also include the elusive 200th episode mark. So maybe they want, maybe they want to really hit that. But of course, because there is another season coming our way, we got set up for next season in a couple of ways, mainly two. You could argue three, even though the third one I don't think people really care about too much. It involves telekinetic powers. But in regards to these main two, one of them was a few minutes before the end of the episode, and of course the other being right at the end before the credits rolled. So we will be going over those two pieces of setup in this video and breaking down where each could lead. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on these, your theories and predictions moving forward, which option you think it's going to be going forward into season 9, just how you think it will turn out. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show your support, you're looking forward to any of the stuff heading into season 9 of The Flash, want to drop a like on the video to do all that. So first, let's just get into the main cliffhanger heading into season 9 of The Flash, and that was right at the end of the episode when we had Barry and Iris catching up after the ordeal that both went through in the closing stages of this season, and they're discussing that the Negative Speed Force will be seeking another avatar after the deleting or the erasure of Eobard Thawne from the timeline. With Barry giving a bit of an ominous look, with us then jumping to the future and another location in the year 2049 to be specific, with the date being June 29th. And just don't look too deep into that, because the finale aired on June 29th. So if you're watching this after maybe watching the show on Netflix, don't pay too much attention to the date at the very least. At least I don't think so, because I think it was just showing, hey, we're exactly 27 years in the future than where Barry and Iris were and when you're watching the episode, and this is going on. So yeah, don't look too deep into it. Anyway, we are in a laboratory of sorts, and we see this blue crystal in a glass box, with us slowly approaching it, which then starts to glow as we of course get close to it, and there is some energy appearing to be pulsing out of it, with us then cutting to black. So what the hell was going on there? Now, nothing was straight up confirmed by the end scene or by the showrunner for The Flash, that of course being Eric Wallace. Now, this is actually a quote from him in regards to the end credit cliffhanger scene tease thing that we saw, but as you'll see, he doesn't actually name who it's setting up. The hardcore comic book fans know what's coming. Those who don't, I'm not spoiling it here, so it's going to be a big surprise for them. But yes, we're pulling directly from the comic books here, and boy, is it gonna be fun. So Eric Wallace doesn't give much away there, outside of the fact that those familiar with the comics should be able to roughly connect what we see on screen with a villain from the comics that will feature in season 9. However, he also says that people that aren't familiar with the comics, it will be a big surprise for them as well, which makes you think, is it a familiar face? So with all this going on, my mind jumped to and has remained focused on one villain, though I will bring up some other possible options other than the main one as well. But that one villain I have, focused on is, of course, as you can tell by the title most likely, Cobalt Blue. Now, I'm not going to completely break down the Cobalt Blue story. If you have been a part of my channel for a while, I've done that more than enough. But in short, Cobalt Blue in the comics is otherwise known as Malcolm Thawne, an ancestor of Eobard, who is actually the long-lost twin of Barry Allen. So it's very soap opera-y, comic booky, very, I think this was in the 90s, so it's very much in that era. Anyway, Malcolm has a crap life, if we're being just straight up, and Barry has a great life. After Malcolm tracks back and learns about Barry, along with learning that Barry's also the Flash, he seeks revenge and means to seek that revenge, but ends up taking on Wally West, due to the fact that Barry died in Crisis in between all of that time. Now, Cobalt Blue mainly seeks to ruin all those connected to Barry as a loved one because he couldn't actually attack Barry at the time because Barry was dead. So you can see how they could easily adapt that portion of the story into the show, both this Cobalt Blue character trying to hurt Barry, but doing that first by attacking the loved ones around him. But you might be wondering, okay, well, cool, if it is Cobalt Blue and he's seeking stuff on Barry, like revenge and stuff, but 2049, why there? Why are we in the future? Why is that where the tease is? Like, does that mean whoever gets that crystal and harnesses the powers of Cobalt Blue is from 2049 or roughly around that period of the future? I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, for all we could know, the crystal shows up in the present day in 2022 or 2023, and that's where Cobalt Blue is based. But in like 2049, there could be other events that feature the crystal or something like that. Like, that's a wait and find out, of course. However, as I said, the crystal was in a laboratory looking area, and the laboratory looks to be in Central City University. At least they're using the same room that was used for a Central City University laboratory in the past. Now, it looked like the room we saw, it was in season 3 when Barry and I think it was Cisco went to meet Tracy Brand, who worked there, and Killer Frost attacked them there. There's that well-known Killer Frost scene. Like, it's like the first time she like really attacks someone, I think, in the present day, and she comes through, and that's in Central City University. And also in 2049, Bart is a student at Central City University. They made that clear in episode 19. They showed him, you know, in the Central City University shirt. And I think in maybe the last time we saw him, they were talking about that he like applied for it, or it was like his first, it was like he was about to start it or something like that. So there's even connections there with other characters in the future as well. So this could easily mean that whoever harnesses the crystal and potentially is Cobalt Blue maybe is a fellow student at Central City University, or that's just some connective tissue they can use in regards to the storyline. But we are jumping a bit ahead of ourselves in regards to like the finer plot details, when really we should just be looking for like the rough outline. But when you think Malcolm Thawne, Cobalt Blue, the closest character that fits to that in the comics is that of Eddie Thawne. Now, unfortunately, Eddie Thawne is, you know, dead. But one thing that was said when Rick Cosnett came back to play Eddie Thawne this season is that there was an option for him to return in season 9 if it was renewed. Why? Like, why would that be the case? What is it going to come back as? So I'm not going to like jump too deep into that, but he's the person who should be playing Cobalt Blue if they do it. It doesn't mean that they can't do someone else, but it just like, this is a character that a lot of people have been wanting, like maybe after like season 3. I've been wanting it since after season 1, after Eddie died. So it'd feel a bit like bittersweet if we got Cobalt Blue, but it wasn't played by Rick Cosnett, and I think he'd do such a good job with it. But the fact that there was that option for him to return in season 9 if it did get renewed just has me going, okay, well, why was that an option? Was it because they were planning to use Cobalt Blue? And obviously we get that crystal tease. Now, the crystal isn't necessarily straight up exactly what we see in the comics with Cobalt Blue. It's more like a talisman gem thing. It doesn't look exactly like that. So there could be other options for who the villain is that's associated with this crystal. So I've got 4 listed here. And I think I've seen a different bunches of people say like these are options and everything like that. Some choose as their number 1. They go, I think it's actually going to be this. It's not going to be Cobalt Blue. It's going to be this one. And some just go, oh, well, I think it might be Cobalt Blue, but also here's like a backup. So I've listed 4 here that I think are decent options that I could see playing out if they wanted to do it. But I won't spend too much time on them because I just don't think they are going to happen, but it's worth mentioning at the same time. So the first one is Paradox, which is a villain from DC Rebirth, and we know that Eric Wallace loves DC Rebirth, so that's a decent option. Paradox is also just like it's just like a random character as well, so you could really choose anyone you wanted and adapt it. It's not someone that already exists on the show or anything like that. So you could really make them you could really make up their own backstory, craft it in a fairly interesting way. And you could also connect it to the future pretty easily in regards to like the time stream and why it could be there, but it impacts in the present day and everything like that. So Paradox out of these 4 is probably my next best option, though I'm still going to be sitting on the Cobalt Blue option. But Paradox is probably my backup. So if it is Paradox, I wouldn't be shocked, but I would also be a bit surprised at the same time. Next up, I've only listed this person here or this character because it was brought up in an interview and Eric Wallace didn't shoot it down, which made me go, why? And that's Savitar. Now, in regards to how he would come back, or maybe it's just like the essence of Savitar, so maybe it's like a new person that takes on the mantle of Savitar, that could be what it is. But it's obviously meant to be a speedster and someone that harnesses into the negative speed force. And maybe that's Savitar, because really, Savitar wasn't a negative speed force connected speedster. It was just Barry from the future who was connected to the regular Speed Force. So maybe they could actually do like a negative Speed Force Savitar. Maybe it's not in that suit, or maybe it's like a different type of suit or something like that. But the fact that someone mentioned that in an interview and they thought it was there, like they said it was like that's what they thought it was setting up, and Eric Walls didn't shoot it down, which made me surprised because he has shot that stuff like that down before. If like it's not even really close to what it is, so just keep that in mind. Another one is Raijin, once again from DC Rebirth, but very connected to Black Hole. We've sort of jumped past the Black Hole sort of thing. I just don't see it being an option. However, I've seen people saying it, and I thought I'd mention it here. I can't see this. I think we've gone past the point of Raijin even being an option to appear on the show, but maybe I'm going to eat my words come season 9 of The Flash. I just don't see it happening. But the last one, I think, is unlikely. It's probably the most unlikely one here, funnily enough, but I actually think it's actually a decent option and still possible. And that's like a Bart, Allen, or Impulse clone, sort of like Inertia from the comics. And maybe this like crystal can take powers, which is like what Cobalt Blue's talisman does from the comics, but maybe it can actually like replicate that into a person, or maybe it's like a rival from Bart's university that maybe learns that he's a speedster, gets obsessed with it, and doesn't tell anyone because he just personally obsesses over it. And be almost like making like Bart's own reverse Flash. I'm not sure, but the issue with that is that you'd have to use Bart a lot in season 9, and I don't think they would. I just don't think they would. However, they could do something where it is just Bart gets like taken out or something like that, or maybe Bart gets absorbed into the talisman or the crystal or whatever it is. They could do something like that. Inertia's a character people have wanted to see since Bart was introduced. But it's just a hard character to do if you do make it a clone. So it just depends how you step around it, I guess. But I think this crystal tease as a whole is a good tease leading into season 9 because it gives you a hint as to where they're going without explicitly saying it, and it just keeps you thinking. And also, like, it's hard to tell whether it's going to be a full-on speedster or maybe it's someone that can just harness that negative speed force energy without, full-on just being a straight-out speedster. It's hard to tell. But we should get casting close to filming of season 9, which we're led to believe should be in, like, September at some point, maybe really early October. It looks like September is going to be the start of filming for season 9. So maybe when casting starts to come out, we might get a better idea as to what's happening there. And of course, if they do say that Rick Cosin is coming back in season 9 to fulfill that option that was in the season 8 sort of thing that he signed, then I guess we can sort of maybe put more money on Cobalt Blue being the actual villain, but that's to wait and find out. But to end off the video, let's move on to the other tease, which was a bit shorter and had been sort of built up over the previous episodes from the end of season 8, and also I guess at least towards the end of the finale as well. And that was, of course, when we cut back to Chillblaine and Caitlyn's work in trying to bring back Frost, which has been happening in like the final 5 episodes of the season, just sort of sprinkled through. And they were doing that cryobod test from the previous episode, and there's like an alert that goes off on the computer that there's been a malfunction. And of course, Chillblaine is asleep at that point. So when he's, finally woken up by it and able to open the cryopod, it appears that whatever or whoever is in the pod is no longer Caitlyn, but also isn't someone that Chillblaine is familiar with. So not Frost, but it of course sounds like Danielle Panabaker and sort of like the voice she does when she's Frost. So is it Killer Frost? Is it like an updated or more powered version of Killer Frost that maybe looks a bit different? Of course, that is hard to tell. But it appears in trying to bring out the subconscious of Frost that could have been remaining in Caitlyn, they pretty much allowed it to completely take over, if not just be the complete dominant version of Caitlyn. Now, it doesn't appear based off that saying that this is a fully evil character, because I think a way to really show that is the case would be for whoever is now in that pod to pretty much just kill Chillblaine with an icicle or something like that. Now, I've been a bit back and forth as to whether this is the best route to take the character, and I don't think I'll be able to settle on that thought until like season 9 starts. But the thing that I think most, if not all, will agree on is that making this one character and not split up is the best route to go by. And it would be interesting to see this new Frost character, whether it's evil, good, or a bit of a mix, is like that all the time. I think they really shrunk the makeup time for Danielle Panabaker when it came to becoming Frost. So I think it's possible for her to be this character 100% of her screen time. But of course, like everything we've gone over in this video, we'll have to wait and find out. Now, of course, just finally, we know that blood work was set up for season 9 of The Flash in the final issue of the Earth Prime comic, crossover event. And Eric Wallace did say in a few interviews after the season 8 finale that this was indeed canon and did set up, something for season 9, but wouldn't elaborate further than that. So maybe Bloodwork could work with this new Killer Frost character if they do lean to the bad side, and maybe some other villains that could appear again. But then again, we don't know what Bloodwork's plan is. We don't know how much more evil he may have gotten during his time in Argus lockup. He could have gone quite insane in there. So there's still like some question marks on Bloodwork as a character as well. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, would be awesome if you could drop a like on it, show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions and everything we went over. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.